Uh, I welcome Ms. Asfia Rahman and Ms. Ruby Gupta and Ms. Nitin Chugran Bahuguna for this beautiful session that we have on Eyes Wide Shut. Eyes Wide Shut has the name as itself says is about mystery books that that we all love to read, and mystery books that will psychology sitting there and waiting and waiting and waiting, and that would be a suspense for you, where you will be going through that whole journey, and it's a very difficult process because when you're writing such a book, the journey itself, you go through all those lanes yourself, and you picture yourself doing all those things with your protagonist. So to begin with, Ms. Asfia Rahman is a management graduate, is a teacher by occupation, and a writer by inclination. She teaches French and English and is a voracious reader. She has published stories and articles with various different publications. Her hobbies include reading and traveling. She lives with her daughter and husband in Delhi. Her first novel, Wild Card, is a sports drama and tells the story of a tennis player. The novel was released by Mr. Tom Alter and Mr. Zafar Iqbal and has won great acclaim. Ms. Nitin Jugran Bahuguna is a senior freelance journalist with over 30 years of work experience. She has investigated and written extensively on human development issues pertaining to gender, health, child labor, and environment. Nitin undertook an in-depth study of the complex issue of child labor in India, visiting industries having great concentration of child workers. One of her stories on bonded child labor in sari weaving industry, captioned Kids Mortgaged for Loans, featured as a great page story in various major dailies. Over the years, she has highlighted several crucial issues with her investigative journalism. In 2001, her story entitled Widowed by AIDS, They Fight for Survival was published in Grassroots. Ms. Bahuguna spends a lot of her time now visiting hill regions in Uttarakhand to write features about the hill communities and their struggles. Comet in the Village is her first novel. Ms. Ruby Gupta, Dr. Ruby Gupta was initially a student of science who later switched to creative writing, dabbled in journalism, went on to acquire 2 gold medals for English literature, gained a PhD and shifted to academic. The recipient of the Pratibha Samman Award for Journalism, her published works include the following 6 books: A Degree in Death, Maya, a novel, Khushwant Singh, Reality and Myth, The Fulfillment, the collection of short stories, Basic Technical Communication, Advanced Technical Communication. She was a regional correspondent for Mirror Today magazine, featured writer for the Tribune and MP Chronicles, and columnist for the Free Press Journal. She has published over 50 short stories, articles, interviews, poems in prestigious national and international magazines and newspapers. Currently, she is working as professor and HOD of Humanities at IMA, Indian Military Academy, and is crafting her next novel. So to begin with, let's have a huge round of applause for all our 3 writers, and they belong to Dehradun. What a privilege to have all the 3 writers from Dehradun. Okay. So my first question to begin with would be, it would be from your book, Eyes, the book on relationship, the book that you have written on, it is about a tennis player and how his life completely changes. So there is a lot of emphasis on relationship in this book. So though it's a thriller, but you have put a lot of emphasis on relationship. So if you could tell us about this book a little further. Wild Card.
Yeah. Hi. No, thank you. So, Wildcard is a story of a tennis player's life, and it talks about the importance of relationships. I think, regardless of whether you're writing a mystery or a romance or any kind of novel, what a reader enjoys is characters, you know, how well they are crafted. Like, I'm sure all of us have read about Agatha Christie's books. The one thing that stays with you always is her characters because they're so beautifully crafted and you remember them even after you have finished reading it, which is one of the reasons why we reread her novels. So my book is basically the importance of relationships, and it talks about, in that sense, it talks about the aftermath of a crime, because the hero loses his wife in a road accident. So it talks, for instance, about survivor's guilt. How do you deal with the after effects of a crime? Most books on crime talk about how the crime happened, how you discover what happened, and that's where the story ends. So this talks about the steps after that. Once the crime has happened, once something has happened, how do you deal with the repercussions? How do you carry on your life, so to say, after that? And that is where, in this book, the tennis player's friends, his family, he has a daughter, how they help him come back to his life. Because due to the survivor's guilt, he kind of leaves his tennis, even though he is one of the best tennis players of the world. So he leaves because he feels guilty about something that happened, something which was not his responsibility at all. And how then he learns to live with that and how he comes back to his life again. So that is basically what this book is about.
And I would like Ruby to tell us a little bit more about her book and throw us some light on it.
Okay, my last book was entitled A Degree in Death, which is actually a murder mystery, and it is set in Dehradun. And ironically, the climax involves Indian Military Academy, where I am now. Although when I wrote the book, I had no idea that I would be working at Indian Military Academy. And this book is about a series of murders which happen in a college campus, which is located on the Mussoorie Road. So people from Dehradun can really identify. There are images of the Mussoorie Hills and the road to Mussoorie, the Shiv Temple. All that is there in my novel. And there is a large Tibetan population also in Dehradun. So I crafted a novel wherein the student population is there, IMA is there, Tibetan population is also there, and they all come together into a murder mystery with an international intrigue in it. There is international, the climax is based on an international political situation. So it is a murder mystery with political connotations.
Nitinji, I would also like you to speak a little bit about your book, A Comet in the Village.
Okay, before I do that, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to thank Anurag Chauhan from Humans of Humanity for organizing this extraordinary event and giving me this opportunity to share a podium with such accomplished writers and distinguished speakers. And I also want to thank students of Marshall School who took a special effort to come here at this crucial time when they're having their examinations. So a big thumbs up to you. You are my favorite demographic, the youth and future of our country. Getting back to the book, I'll tell you at the outset, actually, I was originally in the session Writers from the Hills, because my story is centered around a remote mountain village in Uttarakhand. But my novel covers several genres and several themes, so it was found that I could also be, put over here. Because yes, there is a mystery in my story also. The story is about a young journalist, Delhi-based. Her name is Milka Bhatt. And she's a bit jaded and, well, disillusioned, maybe cynical with life, maybe because of the work she does, her day-to-day job, covering stories that she does. So at this point in her life, she feels nothing can disappoint her, or nothing can shock her. The first shock comes when she learns of her father's death in a road accident on the Yatra route to Yamuna. So she goes to her village. She plans to attend her father's final rites, wind up his farming ventures there, and return to her life in the city. But once she gets to the village, the shocks keep piling on one after the other. A young lad named Nirve Wangnu, he lands up at her doorstep, claiming to be her half-brother. Her great aunt, who wants her to stay on in the village, take over her farmer's lands, become a farmer. Alka is equally determined to return to the city. So something very extraordinary happens, and she finds herself making her home in the village. And even more reluctantly and unwillingly, she becomes the agent of change in her village. And also she faces lots of challenges. She steps on male patriarchal toes. There are village women who are, bullying her because they want instant economic empowerment. And the greatest thorn at her side is her young brother. He drives her wild with his antics, and the worst is that he involves her in most of his outrageous adventures. So these are the challenges she faces. She starts her life in the village, and her greatest task is that she has to locate a young village woman who's mysteriously disappeared.
So my next question would be like, for all three of you, why did you choose this genre of writing? Why did you choose suspense or thriller? Why not a love story that a lot of writers are attempting in today's day? Why a thriller?
Okay, if I speak for myself, since I was a little girl, I used to love reading mysteries. And it was the challenge of the unknown. What's going to happen? In a love story, you know what's going to happen. And even in a mystery, we hope that it will get solved in the end, but there is a certain challenge in it to try and understand. So I've loved reading mysteries, and then I was particularly fond of Agatha Christie, because what I have found is no book of Agatha Christie you can guess the murderer. And so from there the interest in mysteries started. And then when I began writing, I wrote short stories, a murder mystery short story I had written. And then my first novel was Maya, although that was a spiritual novel, but then too it ends in a mystery. The ending is ambiguous because I feel that I should take the reader along with me in the journey. And I feel that it is a challenge for me to write a mystery, and it is a challenge for the reader also to guess what is going to happen and who is the murderer and why is he committing those murders. So I feel that writing a murder mystery or any suspense thriller is more challenging than writing a love story. So that was that, and also because I wanted to write the kind of book which I enjoyed reading myself, so that I would enjoy it myself, and I would challenge myself also, my grey self. So that was it.
Well, speaking for myself, I must honestly say I didn't start off with the idea of writing a suspense. The story started off as a romantic story, but somehow they didn't want to be romantic characters, and the characters acquired a life of their own, and in the middle of it, the story just changed. And when I continued with the characters, I realized that more than a romance, there is certain other aspects which I was enjoying writing. And I think one thing which does happen in writing is sometimes we start off in our mind with a story, and you think, oh, this is a really fantastic idea, and I'm going to write it. And when you start writing it, you realize that maybe there are certain other aspects to it which you like better, and certain things which you're writing, as you're writing, you realize that I want to change this. So the suspense for me was also, what is going to happen to these characters, because I'm writing a story, I have no idea where it's going. So I did not start off with the idea of writing it, but once I started writing it, I felt that suspense and that genre would be a better way of telling people the story that I wanted to say.
Similarly for me, I didn't actually plan on penning down a whodunit. I mean, I've grown up on a healthy diet of Agatha Christie, Hilary Queen, and Perry Mason, and what have you. But my idea was, because of decades of traveling and writing on issues of hill people, among my other developmental reporting, I did want to do some creative writing based in the mountains. And as the idea of a story sort of got going in my mind, then it did become, a mystery. And that was the main plot line. But while I was writing it, so many other subplots came in, And so it's become a kind of a novel which, transcends all genres and different plot lines.
So, Dr. Ruby, I would like to ask you, and I think the question goes for Arshia also, that being a female writer, why did you choose a male protagonist in your novel?
This is a very interesting question, and this was a very conscious decision on my part, because I did not want to be slotted as what is called as a woman writer. I don't want to be known as a woman writer, please, because generally we have I mean, no offense to anybody, but generally we have women writers who are talking about women issues with a female protagonist, and I wanted to write from the male perspective, and I wanted to write honestly and authentically, keeping a male protagonist at the center of my novel. Both my novels, Maya also has got a male protagonist, and Degree in Death also has got a male detective in it, although he is a professor like me. So there I could not move away. But and another reason is that if you make a lady as the protagonist, then inevitably the readers would try and match things about the protagonist with the author. And they will try and find, okay, this is common between the protagonist and the author, so they are one and the same. So I wanted to avoid that entire thing. Although a lot of my students came back to me and they said, but Professor Shantanu Bose is just like you, ma'am. He thinks like this and you also think like this. And many of my students told me that there are a lot of similarities. But it was a conscious decision because I didn't want to be slotted as a woman writer, talking only about women and only about women issues. I think we as writers should address larger things as well, not just women issues.
So I have to agree with Ruby about the aspect where she said that, if you have a female protagonist, a large number of time, the audience relates it, aha, so this is your story, this kind of thing happened. Because in many of the short stories that I've written before this novel, I did have a female protagonist, and then there was a lot of people, who automatically presume that this is based on your personal, incidences or whatever. And I think I also wanted to make life tough for myself, and I took it up as a challenge, can I write a story with a male protagonist? And honestly speaking, it was tough. There were times when I thought, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I creating problems? Let me just go ahead. But I think when you take up something which is challenging and then you write it, the degree of satisfaction that you get is much higher. So it also gives you a greater degree of confidence, because now I know that regardless of whatever age group my protagonist may have, whatever gender he or she may have, I feel the confidence that I can write any kind of story, and that gives me then the confidence to write literally any kind of story under the sun. So I think it was something which I did to challenge myself, and thankfully that challenge seems to have paid off.
And I would like to ask you, Ms. Nitin, that why did you choose this setting? Why this setting of Uttarkashi, an anonymous village in Uttarkashi? What made you think of that? Sitting in, what was the reason behind it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get that a lot. Like I said, from my various travels in Uttarakhand, I did want to base my story in a remote area. And my protagonists are young, deliberately, and the fact is that they are city bred. Both the boy and girl are city bred, and they actually leave the city and they make their home in the village, which is a worse, it's a reverse migration. Because you have the youth who are leaving their villages and going to the plains in search of jobs and better lives. So I wanted to create an entertaining story while at the same time highlighting the lives of the hill people, who to me are really the unsung heroes and heroines of Uttarakhand. I mean, we all know about the state, the holy pilgrimage, adventure tourism, which has become a big thing over here. But we don't know about the hardships and the challenges that hill people face on a daily basis. Yearly, they're facing cloudbursts. One massive storm and villages are razed. But still, they accept it, without complaint and happily, cheerfully, and they have this simplicity and drive. So I wanted to bring that, and I wanted to bring the young couple in and complement them. And at the end of the day, my story is about celebrating life with all its trials and tribulations.
I think if I can interrupt, I would say that the setting of the story is an integral part of the story. And in fact, the setting is also one of the characters of the story. And if your story is well written, that same story cannot be situated anywhere else. It has to happen in that location. That is how seamlessly your story, your setting, your characters and your plot, they should all be interwoven together into a rich tapestry. So this is what I feel about the setting, and I think that is what Nitin has done, that she set it in Uttarkashi.
Absolutely true.
It is a remote Himalayan village, but a lot of the issues, a lot of the things which are happening could happen in any village across India. It just happens that I chose Uttarakhand because I'm an Uttarakhandi and I visited it.
Ms. Nitin, I would like to ask you that your protagonist is a journalist like you, and and you have been a journalist yourself, and you've done wide research on women issues, child right issues. So what kind of research went? Because we all know that a crime novel, a thriller or a suspense, a crime thriller is usually a very widely researched subject to pick up on. So how was the journey of the research, and did your own journey merged in your writing?
It's not autobiographical, and my plot line was pretty clear. I just had to, weave in different things and incidents. Where I needed research was basically in the, all this internet computer technology. And that's where I got a lot of inputs from my daughters and from my nephew. That's how I connected with the youth. So basically that was it, I think, yeah. And when you say you were a journalist, I like to think I'm still a journalist, I think we're like teachers, we don't fade away.
I think research is important in any novel, but whenever you're talking about something where there are facts which play a very important role, then your research becomes that more important, because if you're talking about a specific event or a specific place, you have to make sure that your facts are correct. So research has played an important role, and I think most of us, because that's why we use a setting which we are anyways comfortable with, so that we know that we only have to research a certain area.
So Ashia, you have chosen, you have chosen sports and Wimbledon and tennis. So is there a background to it, and what made you choose that?
No, I don't play tennis or anything. I just have an interest in it. The reason I wrote
Because it's a
particularly...
very unusual subject, to write on, sports.
Yeah. So this particular fact that the protagonist is a sports person, this was something that my publisher had suggested. So he was very keen that the story should be about a sports person, and most of my research was then relating to tennis and the different aspects of a tennis player's life, because as an average person, what we know about tennis is, this person wins, this person loses, oh look at that game is so interesting. But there was a lot of research which goes into it. Obviously all the research doesn't come through directly, but it gives you the confidence to write on the topic. So this was something again which my publisher had suggested, and I took it up again as a challenge. And once I started doing the research, I realized that it's actually, there are a lot of things which, like Ma'am was saying, many things become universal. Like your book is set in a village in Uttarakhand, but there are issues which are unique to every village. It happens everywhere. So while my book is the story about a sports person, some of the issues that he faces, the challenges that he faces, you will face regardless of whichever career you had, because you want to be the best in your career. But the research helps you know that this is the bit where it's different and this is the bit where it's universal.
Then the same question I would ask Ruby, that you have chosen Tibet as a background, and then there is terrorism in Tibet. So we know Kashmir, but there's something, a different story altogether to it. So please throw some light on it.
Okay, before I come to Tibet, your question, I would like to tell you about research. If you are a serious writer, you really need to do a lot of research. For example, all of you will be surprised to know that my first novel, Maya, which is based on spirituality, I did about 10 years of research on spirituality before I thought to write about spirituality. Then coming to this particular novel, A Degree in Death, I did a lot of research, and because I wanted to give it an international intrigue, an international socio-political scenario I wanted to put in, because I didn't want to write a mundane mystery. And the only political scenario where India is involved is, of course, the Kashmir terrorism and the Islamic terrorism, etc., which I felt has been done to death. And at the time when I started writing, there were a lot of Tibetan immolations taking place. I think the suspense is that how come all the mics are failing one by one. So there seems to be a live mystery happening over here, because one by one all the mics have shut down. So I don't know. So anyway, so I wanted to talk about an element of terrorism about which nobody knew anything about, and put it in an international assassination attempt, which is why I chose Tibet and did lot of research into the local Tibetan population, did research as to Tibetan Buddhist studies, where all it is happening, whether it is happening in Himachal, in Uttarakhand, which are the universities catering to Tibetan Buddhism, all that study I did. Apart from that, I did a lot of research into the setting of my novel. For example, where the first dead body is found. It is found in a hostel room. I actually went into that room, saw where the window is, where the balcony is, if somebody can jump from one balcony to the other. In the washroom, there was a window in which the window opened into a sort of an opening for the pipes and all. So somebody could have come from there. All that research I did, and then one of my characters is found dead in the mechanical engineering lab, which one of my students here would vouch for. And I went there, I looked at the setting of the mechanical engineering lab, saw the lathe machine and decided, okay, my dead body is going to be found on the lathe machine. And I looked at the tools which were displayed in the mechanical engineering lab and chose that, okay, this is a heavy enough tool. If my killer kills the character with this tool, then definitely he'll be dead and this amount of blood will come out and he is going to be found dead over there. And so this way I did a lot of research, and in fact, there was an incident of suicide in which actually happened, and I talked to the guard who was the first one to find the person who had committed suicide. I asked him for the entire process, how was the body found, what happened after that when the police came, what all went into the Panchnama. All that I took from first-hand information and then set it into my novel. So I think that is the kind of research which I normally do for any of my books.
And I'm sure a lot of aspiring writers are sitting here and they would be attempting a thriller because it's one of the most hot-selling genres today, thrillers and suspense. So my question would be that what kind of difficulties do a thriller writer faces? Because it's not something very easy to attempt. So what are the difficulties a suspense thriller writer faces? If you could tell us some of those difficult paths you've taken on.
So I think one of the things is it depends on how clear you are about the plot of your story. Like Ruby said, a big role is played by the amount of research you have done. But research can provide you the facts. So there are a lot of things that, because when you're writing a normal story which does not have thriller suspense, you can just follow through in a direct pattern, that this happens and this happens. But when you're writing a thriller, you have to know what is the point that I have to leave out so that the reader is still engrossed. You have to throw in an occasional red herring. You have to know when to throw in the right kind of red herring so that, people do feel that, oh, this could have happened, this couldn't have happened. It shouldn't be something where people say, well, how did that even work out? That makes no sense. So it's a bit more difficult because you have to keep so many things in mind, and yet you have to know when you have to reveal which one of your cards. So I think it helps if you work out the basic plot line and then kind of work backwards as in what you want to reveal at what point of time. And there will be times when, it seems like just nothing is going to work out. I remember there were days when I would think, well, this story is just not happening, there's no way I can move forward on this. And writer's block is something which everyone suffers, but over here especially it becomes a little more tough because there is only sometimes one option that you have, and that might not be something you like. So sometimes you just have to look for something which is like really, really a creative option and then see how you can make that realistic or how you can make that successful.
Okay, the challenges, right? Well, there are a lot of challenges in writing a successful suspense thriller because you have to take the reader along with you. And yet you cannot tell the reader all the clues because then the reader would guess the identity of the murderer and he won't read up to the end. But at the same time, you cannot cheat the reader. You have to tell him what is happening and why it is happening, and you have to give him some clues. So the trick is what clues to give so that the reader is hooked and goes along with you, but not give all the clues. Keep something in your kitty. So that is a challenge, and sometimes you get stuck, and I'll share a secret. I got stuck at one point and I didn't know, okay, what do I do now? Where do I go from now? And reason I used to get stuck is because I work as a full-time professor and it took me 4 years to write. So 6 months, 8 months, I wouldn't touch my novel. And then I would go to it and I would get confused. Okay, what is happening over here? Why is somebody getting killed? And so sometimes when I used to get stuck, I got stuck once and it was a serious writer's block. I thought, okay, what do I do? What do I do? So I thought, okay, let me kill another character. So this is what I did. I made another character die and then I moved forward. So yes, it is very challenging because especially the clues, they have to be really authentic. The reader shouldn't think that, oh, this cannot happen. Everything has to be real. That is the final challenge, and yet things should remain hidden. And even if the reader is able to guess the identity of the murderer, he should not be able to guess what is the motive. That should come in the grand finale. So I think it is very challenging.
I'd just like to add one thing that, I mean, adding another dead body is of course drastic, but when you're writing a thriller, a lot of the time what happens is that you're say stuck at point A and you know that this is what has to happen. You just don't know how you're going to move across. So sometimes that's why a subplot comes in, because frankly speaking, you don't know how I'm going to go from here to there, so let me just add something else and hopefully maybe we'll come back to this. So that's why in any good crime thriller, you'll see that there are lots of subplots. That's just to keep the reader interested while I'm just working out how this murder happened or whatever happened.
Change the question a little bit, and I would like to ask you that: did you face the writer's block, and how did you overcome it, if you did?
Okay, well, the actual time I took to write my novel was 2 months, but it was spread over, I would say, 2 years. I conceptualized it in 2010, got down to writing it in 2012. And in my case, it was really an uncanny instance of fact following fiction. The things I wrote in my book just suddenly started happening. I have a young health worker who disappears, and suddenly in 2000, I think 11 or 12, there was this health worker who disappeared in Rajasthan, a very sensational case. And then a couple of other things also happened which I won't give away, but I will give out one main thing. When I was coming to the climax of my story, June 2013, and I had just about finished it, the Kedarnath tragedy struck. And it was so uncanny, the similarities. Of course, the Kedarnath disaster was horrific by world standards, but it sort of rattled me so much that I put my book away for several months. And then I rewrote the ending, incorporating Kedarnath into my climax, you see. So for me, my research, yours, from what I can tell from what you've done, going to places and checking out pipes and things like that, your detective is very physical. Mine is more of an armchair Hercule type of person. A lot of my research in my first book was internet-based, and the second book also has a lot of that. In a few cases where I may have needed to do some physical thing, that's where I roped in the youthful element. So they did the spade work for me.
When we talk about crime fiction, I always feel that you have to you build up a character and then you kill it, and then you kill more characters, and there's a lot of blood shedding around, and So do you feel attached to your character just before you kill them?
I think sometimes it's the other way around. The character has got you so irritated that you think, okay, that's it. You're the one who's going to die, and then I'll work out why people killed you. So it's both ways, And a lot of the time, I think you have a very clear idea in the plot that this character is going to die. And so, you kind of keep your emotions in abeyance, that, okay, I can get attached only to this point because, frankly speaking, more than that's not going to happen.
Okay, that's an interesting question. I think every character that a writer creates, they are like the writer's babies. You do love those characters, and whatever be said and done, there's something endearing about each character that you create. So yes, you do get attached to the characters, and what I have done is that all my characters who happen to get killed are lovable to a certain extent, but the plot is bigger than the characters in certain stories and certain storylines. So therefore it is the demand of the plot that these characters be killed. So it can't be helped. That's life.
Yeah. I'd just like to say, well, compared to you two, I'm a comparatively novice author murderer. Well, I'll just say in the first book, there's one character that I killed and I really liked. I very yes,
Enjoyed killing it.
That person deserved it, yeah. That's all I'll say.
So in my book, the person who dies died at the beginning, and I think one of the reasons was I just didn't want to get emotionally attached, do my business in the beginning, and then let's work out what's going to happen after that.
This comes to my mind that is it fulfilling to kill your characters? Because thriller is all about killing and so much of crime. Is it fulfilling to do something that you would not do it otherwise, but you get to do it in your book?
Okay, I think maybe inside each one of us there is that vein, where we think there is someone whom, this person really deserves to die. So that, vein of irritation or frustration, you can easily tap into it and, relate it to that character. But more than that, I think it's part of the story. That's what's the really fulfilling part, that, this bit of the story is really working out well.
Well, for me, I don't really think I'm so violent that I would have liked to kill somebody or kill my characters. That was never in my mind. It was the demand of the plot. I mean, the finale or the climax was so big that in order for that to be authentic, certain number of people had to be killed. So, like I said, it was the demand of my plot. I do not enjoy killing, nor do I think of killing my characters. But since I've chosen this genre of crime fiction, I have to kill people. That's what it is. Maybe one day I'll write a crime fiction where it seems that the person is killed, but maybe he turns out to be alive in the end. So maybe something like that. Let's see.
I think that the human psyche, in all of us, we all carry within us a potential killer. I think all of us at some point or the other say, oh, this person irritates me so much, I could kill her, I could kill him, why doesn't he die? But we don't act upon it because, we're a civilized society, we're governed by social norms and teachings. Those who cross over the edge, who have a mental kick or whatever reason, they are the ones I think we are focusing on in our
They
novels.
say that all the crime fiction authors get they have that kind of bend of mind. They always say that Agatha Christie used to get a little high and then write, all that killing used to happen then. So that's a myth probably. Or would you like to bust it?
Seriously, for a couple of days.
Couple of days. So from there, this whole for me, writer, I would say that when you start writing, you feel that you're entering a dark room and you don't know what next you would pick up, and then it becomes part of your story. And from there, I would like to say that a writer's life is very lonely. I feel so because the writer is always lost in his own thoughts and his own stories are, going on in the mind. So what are those obstacles as a writer that you have faced in writing the book? The obstacles you are completely into it and then you are a woman and then you're working. So all three of you. And then you have your houses to run. So what are the obstacles that you faced as a writer in the journey?
Well, I think you're right when you say that a writer's life is in that sense lonely, because until you have written the story, it's all there in your mind and you're the only person who can actually see it happen. And so when you are writing, like particularly when I'm writing, there are certain pieces where I need to be on my own. So, I like lock up my room or whatever, and to a certain extent what happens is if anyone disturbs me, I'll be like, don't talk to me right now, there's a dead body here, or don't talk to me right now, I don't know what's going to happen, you have to wait 10 minutes. So that kind of thing does happen, but it's something I think which anyone who is writing would need to happen, and I think that's why a writer's family has to put up with a certain degree of, that they are going to be shunned out, they are going to be told, we cannot talk right now, stuff happening here which is really very difficult.
Well, for me, I do not write on a regular basis as such. I mean, there are phases where I'll be writing like mad for about 2-3 days, then put it aside and get caught up in other things and forget about that manuscript for about 6 months, 8 months, even a year I've left it aside and then I get back to it. But yes, when I'm writing, so then a sort of a junoon takes place. And I forget to eat, forget to sleep, forget everything. And I remember I would bring my stuff on a pen drive to the office, do it over there, then copy it back to the pen drive, also mail it to myself so that then I go back home, take a cup of tea and then sit down and just focus on it. But that happens sometimes. So yeah, it is very tough, but then you're so caught up in that story. You need to tell that story and everything takes a back seat. So at those moments, I don't think you're lonely as such because the book is so lively. It fills you up completely. So I don't think the loneliness bit is there, but yes, it is challenging to manage everything. But then I think that's what makes your life very interesting. It makes it vibrant because on the one hand, you've got one foot somewhere else, and So your life becomes very, very interesting. And sometimes another thing is when you're in the flow of writing, it's like meditation. You get lost into it. It's just like meditation. So I think it makes you feel elevated.
Yeah, I don't personally consider a writer's life to be lonely because, like you say, you're so absorbed in your characters. You know, you're lost in your own world. But as a novelist, I'm a late bloomer because I put my family always before. And I waited till my younger daughter went to college before I started penning this. But, it's not always possible for me to get away, to get to my special place and work, because I always put my family as a priority. And then, your craft takes a hit, And sometimes that's not good because you do miss out on something good. So what I try to do now is if I get an idea, I jot it down. Now I've started keeping a diary. My first novel was entirely in my book. But I find as I'm getting older, I tend to, forget things. Some incidents are so good, you should note them down. So now I've started keeping a diary.
So, from there, my next question comes at what qualities do you think are most important for any thriller writer? And there are a lot of students here who would be attempting it, so just give us some tips on that. Most important quality of a thriller writer.
I think the most important thing is that you have to be curious. I think curiosity plays the biggest role because that's where you get the twists and turns in your plot, as to why would this happen, how would this happen. So, all those kids who have ever been told by their parents that don't ask so many questions, thrillers are where you can get the opportunity to explore all those questions, How would I dispose of this? Or, why would this person do this? So curiosity helps you come up with the twists and turns, and it also helps you come up with a plot which is different from what anyone else would say.
I think another thing, I agree about the curiosity bit, the habit of always asking questions and questioning everything around you. Another thing is you should be a very keen observer of human psychology. What makes a person tick? What makes him do certain things or not do certain things, say certain things and not say certain things? Therein lies the motive of doing particular things, and therein lies the motive of crime. So, an understanding of human nature, observing human quirks and foibles, and also an interest and observation of all things around you, because those are the things which go into the raw material of your story. And apart from that, I think a thriller writer has to have the ability to say a lot in few words. This I feel is a very big quality, because otherwise in romance writing or other kinds of fiction, saga kind of fictions, you can go about describing a tree for maybe 2 pages. But in a crime thriller, you would just mention the tree, whatever is relevant about the tree, that's it, and then move on. So you have to have the ability to convey a lot in as few words as possible.
You have to be very up to the point and very precise in this kind of writing.
Yeah, you covered it. Basically, I just want to say it has to be fast-paced, crisp reading with an element of surprise, and you covered it all.
This would be my last question, and that is that both of you have chosen traditional publishers for your writing. So can you just take us along this journey? It's not very easy. So just tell us a little bit about your journey of getting published.
My publisher is a new publisher. They go by the name of Half Baked Beans. So it's a new publishing house. It's only about 3 years old. And I think one of the things which my publisher is very keen on, his thing is that he wants to publish only new and different kinds of novels. So that was one thing which really helped me. He said that one of the reasons I really came into publishing was that I found every second book is a similar kind of book. And as a reader, I felt that, there is hardly any variety. And what can I do about that? Because he said, I can't write, so I can't write a book. But I can provide a platform for people who want to write different stories to help them come out. So he is anyways very keen on the idea of having different stories. And I met him at a writing workshop where I had submitted a story of mine. And then when we got to discussing and talking, he had an idea, I was looking for something to write. So we kind of hit upon this idea of the manuscript together. And the basic idea is his, and I then got to work on it in whatever way I want. But it has been a very, very good journey of mine with Half Baked Beans so far.
Well, I started writing non-fiction, and my non-fiction was picked up quite easily. One of my non-fiction books is a critique on the works of Khushwant Singh. So that was published by Classical Publishing Company. And after that, my two books on technical communication were published by Cambridge, and I also had an offer from Oxford. Then my collection of short stories was also published by Har Anand. But after that, I hit a roadblock. And when I was trying to get my first novel, Maya, published, I got rejections for 1 full year. And I was ready to throw it in the dustbin. And out of the blue, suddenly, there's this publisher in Kathmandu, Christopher Burchett, he's the editor. He rang me up out of the blue. I was sitting in my lab, language lab, and he rang me up and I said, are you sure you want to do this? So that was a pleasant surprise because after 1 year of rejections, everybody rejected me. Then it was published, so that was published by Pilgrim's Publishing Company, which focuses on spiritual books and all. They're based in Kathmandu, etc. And then for a degree in death, I thought that, okay, now I've done 5 books, this is my 6th book. Again, I went through almost like 4 to 5 months of rejection, and then finally Alchemy picked it up and they published it, so I was very happy. I chose traditional publishing because I felt more comfortable about traditional publishing because I'm a traditional kind of person.
So one thing I just like to add that, like Ruby was saying, rejections is, I think, a very integral part of it. So like the first novel I wrote, that was rejected by everyone, even by my current publisher. And he said that this is not what I want to publish. So when I was writing this one, I said, you better publish this if I'm writing it on your idea and you later on say, I'm not keen on it. But I think rejections also make you stronger. And what, like she was saying about her novel Maya, if you write a good story, ultimately you will find a publisher. You just have to have the patience for that, and you have to have the confidence in your novel. You have to know what it is that is essential to it. That this is the bit that I do want out, and if you wait for it, and if your novel is good enough, strong enough, I'm quite sure you'll get it published.
I think all the aspiring writers should take a note of this, and I'll just change the question a little bit for you, Nitinji, that you decided to self-publish your book, and did you try the traditional publishers first?
I did go to 3, I sent a few chapters of my manuscript to 3 leading publishers. I won't name them. But in your case, you were, they were gracious enough to send you rejection letters. I got no call at all. So then I just let it. And then somebody told me about Notion Press, self-publishing. And I contacted them and they said, yeah, I'm quite satisfied with the final output of their, efforts.
Yeah, I'd like to just share a story of how difficult the struggle is. About my first novel, one leading publishing house, actually the process is you send them a query letter and an abstract, a synopsis. So some will reject you at that stage. So this publishing house, a very reputed one, they accepted it. They asked for first 3 chapters. I sent the first 3 chapters. They said, okay, we are very happy with the first 3 chapters. You send us the manuscript. I sent them the manuscript. They said, okay, very good. Now send us the hard copy of the manuscript. I got the entire hard copy, about 325 or 350 pages. That's like a really thick manuscript. Sent it, and they were going through it, and all the while talking with me on mail, ki, yeah, we're going through it and all. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, they've reached this stage. And in the end, I get a long letter that no, because of this reason or that reason. And can you imagine the setback that was? So to everybody, if you face this kind of challenges, it's okay, hang in there. You'll eventually get published.
So, she got at least a long letter. I got it after 1 year. I got a 2-line letter which said, we regret to say we will not be able to publish it. And I was like, after a year, what were you doing for so long?
So the gist would be that keep holding on to your dreams, and it'll happen one day or the other. So I open the stage for all our audience to ask questions from our esteemed guests here. So any questions from the audience, please raise your hand and the mic would come to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rohan Raj. I run a literary startup called the Book Nerds. My question to everybody is, we were just discussing that how difficult it is to, send out a manuscript and the whole process. What is your take on plagiarism, which has been happening like for a bit now? When you send a manuscript, how safe it is, in some publisher's hand? How do you deal with it? So yeah, that's about it.
Well, I think the reputed publishers don't really stoop so low as to plagiarize your stuff. So I've never really been afraid of it, nor have I faced it. So I think basically the world still, even though we're in Kaliyug, we're quite fair. People are generally nice and good.
Yeah, so I would agree with her that most of the traditional publishers don't do it. But what happens is sometimes, you have that desperation where you feel, okay, you start thinking, okay, these 10 top publishers have not said, let me send to the next round and then to the next round. So sometimes that does happen. There have been one or two cases where something like that happens. But if you really feel that strongly about it, then I know some writers who actually go through the process of copywriting their thing, or when you send the manuscript out, you send a watermark on it or something like that. But I personally have felt that, look, if someone is going to plagiarize my work, then that means it's good enough to get published. So I'm going to look at it at a positive spin.
So there's a student in the last row. Yeah, in the mic.
I am the student. I'd like to know your inspirations and since when you began writing and your aspirations as well.
And when I was in class 10, I had an English teacher, I still remember, Mrs. Huck, and she fell ill and her brother came for a stand-in. And he told us to write a short story in the English period. Just like that, in the English period. And I wrote a short story which was a murder mystery, and I still remember the title. It was The Boy Who Knew Too Much. And I used to be this shy kid, always sitting at the back, never in front or anything. And I wrote this story called The Boy Who Knew Too Much. It was a very interesting murder mystery wherein the boy gets to know why the priest has murdered his wife, and then the priest ultimately murders him as well. So that teacher, he was so impressed, he made me come in front of the class and read it out, and he told other teachers. And that day I thought that, okay, maybe I can tell a good story. So from there, but this stayed in the back of my mind. I was then dabbled in journalism and all that stuff. Then finally I thought that I should become a writer, and so I started writing from non-fiction, stories, poems and all, to finally to novels. And now I'm into crime fiction. My inspiration as such, I would say, I was extremely impressed by Agatha Christie. The way she crafts novels, I think it's very good. And Dan Brown also, because I think these two are my favorite authors.
We have one more gentleman here. He wants to ask a question in orange. Okay. So we come to the end of this amazing discussion, and I would suggest all our audience here that there are 3 nail-biting suspense thrillers here in your right amongst us. So, Comet in the Village by Nitin Jugran Bahuguna, Wild Card by Asfia Rahman, and A Degree in Death by Ruby Gupta. Please go and buy your copies and have a, what would I say, a thrilling, amazing, thrilling, spine-chilling session while reading these books. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for moderating the session. I request Mr. Ramesh Chandra from LIC of India to present a memento to our guests. Ms. Asfia Rahman, Dr. Ruby Gupta, and Ms. Nitin Jugran Bahuguna. Our moderator for the next session, Impact of Literature on